Welcome to the Panza Panza Forum. In the Yoruba language, the word panza is usually injected into poetry to express an uncomfortable, uncensored, and inconvenient truth. The Panza Panza Forum is candid conversations about the life of African immigrants in America as it relates to their adaptation to their new home. While some may find it easy to integrate and can balance between retaining the original African culture while accepting the culture of their new home, many continue to struggle to find a balance between both worlds.
Hello and welcome to Panza Panza Live. This is a podcast where we discuss the lives of African immigrants and their assimilation into Western society as they raise younger generations in a country that is quite different from their own. We also explore the experiences of children of immigrants as they balance the African and Western cultures. We present to you this informative, interesting, and expansive dialogue about the intricate experiences of African immigrants in America.
Welcome to Panza Panza. I'm your host, Kemi Seriki, and today I'm having conversation with my dear Nigerian sister, Miss Iyabo Onipede, a Nigerian American on issue of race, cultural inclusion, equity, racial justice. I learned about Miss Onipede after seeing a short clip of her Instagram post on racial healing during the Black History Month of 2023. I was so moved by her message that I sent her an invitation to come on Panza Panza to educate our community on this topic. With my finger crossed, hoping that she will accept the invitation to be a guest. I was so happy when she accepted the invitation. Miss Iyabo is a facilitator, keynote speaker, a consultant for organizations on a mission to eliminate racism, dismantle oppression system, and grow equitable culture. First, I would like to thank you for accepting my invitation, and I'm so excited about this dialogue because it's one of those topics that I'm really passionate about. So as I always ask my guests, can you fully introduce yourself? Talk a little bit about your background to our audience as to where you were born, where you spent most of your childhood and adult life.
Thank you, Ms. Seriki. I'm excited to be here with you. I appreciate what you're doing. I would call you a community builder, using your podcast to shed light on a lot of things that affect a lot of people that may not have the voice or even be aware that that's what they're going through. So I appreciate you. And thank you for inviting me to be on here. So I am the youngest of three. I was born and raised in Nigeria. My father was from Isaleko. My mother is of Irish, American, and Polish Jewish descent. And my father was here in the US in the 40s, attending school, and he met my mom, married my mom, and brought my mom back to Nigeria. And my mom lived there for 30-umpteen years. I don't remember. My parents are now gone. They've made their transitions. And when I was 16 years old, I came to America. So I was the youngest of three. My sister came first, then my brother, then myself. And I'm the last born. So I'm very spoiled. And so me coming, I just was following in my siblings' footsteps. And my sister was in Boston, my brother in New York, and I was in the Baltimore area. And I was 16. I was in college. I was on my own. We did not have Facebook and Twitter and FaceTime. We used to pay big money to call long distance or call collect. I didn't have money to have a phone. I mean, my father was amazing. My parents were incredible. They sent us to school. Our school fees was taken care of, but everything else, honey, you're on your own. So
Thank you for saying that.
So, my parents, my dad had taught at University of Lagos. My parents were not, and he was a businessman. They were not, uber wealthy people. I would call them upper class Nigerians because of my dad specifically, because of his education and the kind of family he came from. But we were not rolling in the money. We didn't live in Ikoyi and VI. I grew up in Isolo. Right? So my parents were very, very highly principled people, very radical. My father had a secondary school, Iyabo Academy, that was designed on the American school system. And then one of the military governments came along and took it over. Some military government came along and he was let go from the university along with a bunch of other professors. So our lives were unstable. And I think my parents sent us here to get an education, to be stable, and to set us on the right path, to not be dependent on, for his daughters, any man, and for all his children, not be like have options outside of the political instability that was going on in Nigeria. So I believe that's why my parents sent us here. And they clearly, my father, he went to school in America and clearly believed in American education. He valued American education over British education. Not that British education was not good. My father just always had a leaning towards America because his field of study was political philosophy. So coming to this democracy at a time when Nigeria was starting to really push against, this is late 40s, remind you, a time when Nigeria was asking questions around independence. We weren't pushing for it just yet, but looking towards independence. My father felt he had the intellectual capacity, which he did, and the desire not to be involved in politics, but to understand political systems so that we could look towards self-governance as a country. Right. So then for us, it was about safety and stability. And we all ended up staying in the States. I don't think originally that was the intention. My sister did some work back and forth. My brother and I, we just can't imagine moving back to Nigeria.
Yeah.
Especially now. But then also it's not like I married a Nigerian that needs to go back home or is interested in going back home, go back to his people or whatever. So we just all ended up staying here. So of course, we've all lived here much longer than we lived in Nigeria, but we still consider ourselves Nigerian. We follow Nigerian politics. We have friends from all over the world. We are in touch with our relatives. We have family Zoom meetings periodically. We eat and cook Nigerian food. We speak the language. My sister and I, at least, we watch the Nollywood movies. And if there's some way we could give back, we do. I was involved in a Nigerian organization in the 2000s, like 2000-ish to about 2008, 2009, called Nigerian People's Forum. And they started out of trying to get back into a democracy when we were still under some degree of military rule. And what could Americans in the diaspora, Nigerian Americans in the diaspora, do about return to democratic rule? And eventually that did happen while I was part of that organization. So I've been able to contribute in such ways.
Yeah.
However, when I think of 200 plus million people and our young people,
yes,
and opportunities, and this amazing thing called brain drain, is very sad to me. Right now, I'm a writer and I've been working on my parents' biography. Like, I think they have a pretty remarkable story. And
wonderful.
I'm
Can't wait to read.
It's going to take me time because I get distracted. I go down rabbit holes. So I was thinking about when my father was born in 1925. Right? My father was born in Port Harcourt. His father was an agent for London and Kano, and a tailor and a Methodist preacher. And he was this agent for London and Kano. Okay, I've known this story my whole life, but what does that mean? That means that my grandfather was educated enough to speak English well. He could add and subtract and manage money in English well. That means that white people could trust him. Colonial masters could trust him to leave Lagos, go to Port Harcourt, set up their business, and be able to report back. That's no small thing.
No.
Then when they left Port Harcourt, they came back to Lagos. Then he went to Kano, and the end of the railroad line at that time was Sabongari, I think. I'll pull it up in a second. So my grandpa was sent there.
Wow.
To go and set things up. And my father was with him because my father was kind of a tough guy. So my grandma was like, you are too much headache. Go with your father. So my father was in a boarding school in Kano. That's where he did like elementary education.
Yeah.
He ended up coming back to Lagos. And this is part of why he came to America. My father went to Baptist Academy, which was a mission school set up by American Baptists. So the principal of the school was an American Baptist. Everything was American Baptist stuff. So he got on that trajectory sooner than others, because when you think of that era, people were going to England, not so much American.
Coming to America because we're colonized by the British.
And Nnamdi Azikiwe had come to America, my father. So that's how my father ended up coming to America. And then my mom, of course, is American, of Irish descent, is what we always say. You know, growing up in Nigeria, people will see me and call me Oyinbo.
White woman.
White woman, which my mother explained to me that Oyinbo is actually an insult, right? Translated, it means
pale skin.
Yes, one whose skin has peeled, which is such a beautiful concept. And let me tell you why, that when I use Oyinbo in my workshops, that what it does is that it centers the Black person. It says everybody is supposed to be Black, but you white person, they've peeled your own skin. And it's a good way for white people to begin to learn how whiteness is centered in our daily language. You know what I mean? Like,
beautiful.
Yeah, like, we think of the default as norm, and then we don't know how that's impacting everything, like AI, right? The original AIs really were those faucets at the airport. You put your hand under it and it's supposed to wash.
Yeah.
For the longest time, they couldn't bring that stuff public because if dark-skinned Black people put their hands under it, the water doesn't come out.
It doesn't come out.
Because AI wasn't taught to read dark skin. White skin was norm. So even when we look in medicine, right, all the statistics, everything is based on white normal people. And then they say, you as a Black person, you're off here.
Yeah. That's so true. And one thing I want to say that your dad and those in their generation, they had the country in mind to really bring it up to the level of what they saw in the West or in Europe. But the Nigerian government, did not allow that. And this is what led to so much brain drain that we're experiencing now, that people are just moving out in droves. Because as Africans, we love our continent, and it's to want to go back and do so much over there. That's why somebody like your dad and many of their colleagues, the caliber of that time, they feel like they have to do something to improve the country. I've read books that talk about the conversation that goes on during those times. Newspaper articles that average Nigeria will just write an article just to be able to tell the Europeans that the British, what you're doing, we're not going to agree with this. We're not going to agree with that. To go against what the British government may have been doing or the royal family. But, it's just so sad. Imagine at that time of what he did, trying to build a school, what it could have become today.
Oh, yes. You know what's so funny? First of all, let me go back and say this. My grandfather was stationed in CARA Model, which is the end of the railroad line in the north by London and Kano. And then my dad was in the boarding school in Kano. So I just went to look that up while we're talking. You see, last night I was with a group of about anywhere from 75 to 80-year-old, about 10 Nigerian men. And I was the only woman with them, and I'm not between 70 and 80. And three of them, I had worked with them in the organization I talked about earlier, Nigerian People's Forum, which was a really good organization. In that, you know how we Nigerians can get together and just be discussing politics. We always talked about solutions. We agreed to not have political affiliations, like party affiliations, so that we could be fair. And we addressed the issue of tribalism and settled on some things so that when we talk to each other, it's not this Igbo, Yoruba, something kind of thing. So we were talking about how they all said, we're old, there's nothing we can do. We've made our peace. Few of them were professors. And they said, what do we do? Okay, Iyabo, you're the youngest in the room. What can we do? What are the next steps? And I said, we have to trust our young people. We have to trust them. And I explained exactly what you said. People like my father, they came here just to go to school and go back. They were nation builders. They had a vision for Nigeria, whether it was an owl vision of Yoruba land, just Yoruba land, whether it was a Nnamdi Azikiwe vision of all of Nigeria, unified Nigeria, the 250 to 300 different tribes. How do you deal with power and resources? These are very complex questions. I said, but you guys, you're the next generation. You came to get an education because you felt when you go back, the education positions you to be able to take care of you, your immediate family, your larger family, and maybe your village, right? And then some of you ended up staying here and becoming professors because you had these children that you wanted to raise in the most excellent educational environment. And then you have these wonderful children that are so creative. We're missing the fact that young people are creative. So you that you're a lawyer or a doctor, your child now goes, you force your child to go to medical school because you know how much you suffered to be in America, to be a doctor. You now insist on this child going to medical school. The child wants to be an artist. So you say, okay, just go to medical school. After that, we do art. Why would someone see medicine and art and pick art? Why? You are not the kid, your children. You've done such a good job raising your children that you were in survival mode. And you've done such a good job there in thriving mode. It is when you are thriving that you can say, I want to be an artist because I can go home and ask daddy for my rent money, right? And you, that nice daddy, you're probably going to give it to me because you worked so hard and you love me, and we're very American about that. And so these young people, look at Nigeria. Nigeria politics is not working. You know what's working? Business to business and arts. Nigerian music is off the charts. Nigerian fashion is off the charts. Nigerian literature is off the charts. So even food, okay? There was a dinner here in Atlanta where a Nigerian celebrity chef, Michael Elegbede, was cooking, presenting a 4-hour dinner, $250 per person, minus the wine, in partnership with another pastry chef, a white American, at the St. Regis, one of the fanciest restaurants here in Atlanta. My point being, like, that's where these young people are going. Michael Elegbede's grandmother was a cook. Her madam sent her to Paris. This is not someone who grew up in Ikoyi. Her madam, his grandma, was a cook in a white people's house. They sent her to Paris for cooking. She taught her own daughter. I don't know what her daughter did. And this is the grandson now. Maybe 30, maybe. So Nigerians are exploring
everywhere.
Politics is for the old people. Y'all have it. Y'all messed it up. Y'all won't even let a Peter Obi in. Forget it. We're going to do our thing. Going back to what I said, we need to honor them. We need to listen to them. We have wisdom. So like I was telling these gentlemen yesterday evening, do you see where the children are going? And are you looking at them through survival eyes or through thriving eyes?
Yeah, and I think many people who are going to listen to this will really appreciate what you say, especially with African immigrant parents and the children trying to figure out what they want to do with their life. And, many times, especially Nigerians or Ghanaians, whereby we want to instill, you have to be a doctor, you have to be a lawyer, you have to be an engineer, without allowing them to do what they're supposed to do. I think they will find it very helpful.
Don't let us say that I'm trying to teach someone how to be a mother or father.
No.
I personally don't have children, so I've not gone through that rough business of raising a child. But I'm a mother to all the children.
But you know what? It's part of what, since I've been doing this work in the community, is part of the complaints many of our youth, our children are having, in terms of they have no freedom in choosing their career path. And I always even tell parents, not every child will go to college. There's some that they will learn better in learning trade. Maybe they want to go into trading, be a carpenter, be a mechanic, whatever suits what they think is right for themselves. They have to figure it out one way or the other. And I really appreciate your background in terms of your Polish, Jewish background.
Irish, Jewish, Polish,
who grew up in Saleko. Can you imagine that combination together?
I understand why one of my biggest crises in my life is feeling that I don't belong. Wherever I am, and it's actually my gift, but it's also my crisis.
Yeah.
Because it's a gift in that it just helps me see things.
Yeah.
There are times that you just feel like I feel very fragmented. I can sit here and discuss with you. We'll discuss this, discuss that, do the Niger thing. I will immediately switch to my American thing. I don't even know when I'm switching. But I'll be like, this Niger woman doesn't understand. Let me deal with my Wimbo people here today. Then after Wimbo people get on my nerves a little bit,
then you come back.
My African American adopted siblings, Ojari, let me go and talk to them. Then I would get tired of them, come back to the Nigerians. Then I say, okay, I'm just going to go to church. And everybody, me and Jesus were one. Then finally I just come home. I'm like, I'll forget it.
Yes.
It always feels like a certain element is just not there, for me. And so that not fully belonging, it's a gift in that it helps me see things and understand things.
I understand things, yeah.
But at the end of the day, when you go to bed at night, you're like, wow, I really am on my own in so many ways.
Yeah. What would you say you miss mostly growing up in Nigeria?
My grandpa.
Oh.
And my aunties. Like, my mom didn't have relatives. Her parents transitioned before I was born. That's why I'm Iyabo. And on my father's side, my grandma also transitioned. So I didn't have a grandma, but my dad had older sisters. And just that feeling of these are my own people. America is a very lonely place.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And even though I have I can call my aunties, my older cousins. I'm the youngest grandchild. Okay. There are even great-grandchildren that are older than me, right? So I have cousins that are much older than me that are my aunties. And it's that family thing that I miss. I don't miss the food because I can duplicate that. And I miss the sense of security and belonging. My parents went out of their way. I never had the chance to thank them for this because, like all the teenagers, I was extremely rebellious. I want to do my own thing. Like they really went out of their way to make us feel safe, explore our own lives, be our own people, expose us to the best things that they could expose us to. And they were so principled. They did not like classism. That's why we lived in Isolo. So you look at me, you think, this one grew up in Ikoyi or something. No. My father did not believe in Ikoyi club stuff and OU and all the other little kids go and play over there. No. you are not going to create another class
of people. And that's very powerful. That is for him at that time, because being a class of Ikoyi people, whereby their children are within certain group of people, they don't even know what the masses of population is doing because they are segregated. With their notes, I all perceive, you have to look at them and bow down,
My father was not big on the class thing at all. He thought it was morally wrong. So our drivers, our support staff in the house, I couldn't use words like house girl. They were my aunties.
Wow.
The driver was Mr. Hassan. Even though my own sister, I call her by her first name. In our house, we didn't do brother, sister, nothing.
Okay.
But my father's staff, the household staff, Mr. Alaji, So, he really was big on, growing up in Nigeria, being light-skinned, being mixed race, people will put you,
That's what I was going to ask you, that how was it like growing up in Nigeria as a biracial child, navigating through early childhood, adolescent life in Nigeria?
First of all, there was a general way most mixed race kids grew up. And then there was the way Iyabo's parents had her grow up. So the general way, which was like, you are, as if you are special, as if you're like Trevor Noah has said this, like in America, the one drop rule is that you have one drop of black, so you are black. In Nigeria, you have one drop of white, so you have more proximity to whiteness, right? So we really suffer from that because we're very class conscious people. We immediately put white people in a higher class and then the mixed race folks in the next class. And like I said, they will call me Oyinbo, they will call my mom Oyinbo, even though they know the difference, right? But as a mixed race person, you get away with murder, right? If I don't kunle to greet your mom, Oyinbo lon se, she's
excuse
doesn't
you.
know better, right? So you get away with a lot. And I still do in Nigerian context, because like one of the things about us Yoruba people that drives me crazy is like, I don't know what the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, kind of thing. And people are not direct and just tell you what's going on. I can't handle it. So when I'm very direct, my friends will say, look at her, Oyinbo. You should temper it. You should, I can't. I don't know how to do that. So things like that drove me crazy, but I could get away with things like being direct or asking questions of adults when children were supposed to be seen and not heard, right? I could get away with that. But honestly speaking, there is a fetishization, and I don't know how to pronounce that word, and sexualization of mixed race girls in Nigeria. Because as you know, we like light-skinned women like you. We practice what in America is called colorism. Right? Lighter is better. Lighter is more attractive.
And that's why many women bleach.
Exactly. Whereas we don't celebrate dark skin. We don't think of it as beautiful. I always talk about colorism because like even in the work I do as a racial justice trainer, when I facilitate things, I tell these white people, you can hear me because I just told you my mama was white and my skin is so fair. I said, if I were dark skin, like ebony black, you would not hear me the same way you're hearing me now. And it plays a role. So going back to growing up in Nigeria, I think there was a different set of expectations that I would be smarter, and I wasn't always necessarily smarter. I was an average student. I was expected to be very, quote, what we call ajebota. Ajebota means
silver spoon.
Butter. Butter, right?
For those who grew up with silver spoon in their mouth.
Exactly. So You never take bus, you don't take down food, you don't do all of that. It's your driver that always picks you up and stuff like that. And that you have endless money somehow just because of your fair skin. So there were those types of things that were put on me. Here's some of the good things. When I think of my friends in secondary school, they were very protective of me. When they knew I didn't know something, step in, right? And Iyabo, I was always outgoing and very much into oratory. I did debate. I was on TV for debate and stuff like that. So I was kind of out there. I have that extroverted kind of personality, even though I'm really not an extrovert. But, like I'll get up, I'll speak, I'll represent. I have no fear around that kind of thing. And people thought that that's what I should do. That comes natural. That's what you should, like, they just push you to be the representative per se, right? And in my case, that was okay because I probably was just that way naturally, but it made other people who had just as much brilliance as me, school or wherever we were, that were not being given the opportunity because, we want the half-caste girl representing us. Right? And it took years. I mean, it's when I didn't understand that then. It's been in America that I understand.
What would you say about that word you just mentioned, Africa?
Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible. I hate it with a passion. Half-caste is, and I mentioned earlier, Igbo is an insult. Let me tell us how we use insults. A half-caste is saying you're a half-breed. Like you breed a golden retriever and a German shepherd, and it's a half-breed, a mixed breed. But so when they say half-caste, it's from that colonial thing that the white caste is higher than the black caste. And because white has mixed with black, you are now half. It's like you are somewhere in between, but you are superior to black, which is a bunch of crap. Okay? It's crap. It's not true. Now, you may say, Iyabo has the luxury to say that she's the one in the light-skinned body. However, I hurt like you hurt.
Yes.
I have desires like you have. I grieve like you grieve. My life is not special because of it. But I do agree that I have privileges that other people may not have. It is true. And it could be hard to admit, but half-caste is an insult. I'm not half of anything. I'm a whole human being. I say mixed race.
Mixed race, because back home is something that is commonly used. The half-caste, so it's part of it. And come to bring in your mom. I know that many foreign women, whether they were Caucasian or a person of color from America, or the Caribbean who moved to Nigeria with their husband, formulated an organization called Niger Wives. And I believe the organization was formulated to assist in addressing the issue they may be facing, to build support system for themselves and their children economically, because many of them, they might see, what kind of job can I get in this country? Because it could be lonely for them. How do they build that social support among themselves, or emotional support also? Was your mom part of any one of these organizations? And how was our adjustment in Nigeria?
Okay, very good question. So my mom, I think the reason I can do what I do today is because of how different and unique my mom was. And I remember, if we look it up, when did Niger Wives start? Let's look it up. I'm going to look up online, Niger Wives. And there's a book out called Niger Wives, and it's a very interesting book. I enjoyed reading it.
I'm going to get it.
Oh, yeah, it's a good novel, just a novel. Okay, and it gives you a lot of good information about that kind of adjustment. So it was in 1979, I believe, that Niger Wives started. 1979, and then 87, I think they got recorded. So I was still in Nigeria in 1979. And here's what I remember. My mother was a part of the American Women's Association.
Okay.
And they would have plant sales. My mom was a great horticulturist. They would have plant sales. My mom would go and help with the plant sales, blah, blah, blah. And they would have book swaps where novels you're reading. Then they'll have their afternoon tea or whatever. When Niger Wives came along, my mom said, no, because she thought that for whatever reason, I don't know what happened. I was such a child. She thought that these women were trying to create Niger Wives for the children to meet each other and marry.
Wow.
And she was opposed to that because that's that class thing. So if I'm not mistaken, because that was her belief, thank God it was her erroneous belief.
Yes.
She ended up being very involved in Niger Wives because of what she went through. My white American mother, who was a citizen of the US, gave up her American citizenship and became a naturalized Nigerian.
Wow.
So she could work, and she worked at Central Bank.
Wow.
And the reason
was it part of requirement?
Yes, you could not be a foreign national and work in Nigeria. So even in my lifetime with dual citizenship, America allows it. Nigeria did not allow dual citizenship.
At that time?
Yes, for that time. Not now. Now is different. So my earliest memory of my whole life is me running up and down the hallway at the Nigerian embassy, at the American embassy in Nigeria, because we were there that day. I was like 3-4 years old, and the date is on my American passport because we were there and it was like an all-day affair. And I was just running up and down the hall, going crazy, driving my mother crazy. And it was for me to get my passport. So what my mom did is she made sure all her children had their American passports, and then she relinquished her citizenship.
So that she could work.
Yes, my sister is the one who ended up filing for her when she came back to America.
Wow. That is so, I don't even know what word to use to describe it.
When I tell you that my mother paved a way, I had zero appreciation
You
for
have
her.
to write, you have to write a book.
I had zero appreciation for her when she was alive, because here are some of the stories in the family that I'm writing. My mom and dad are living in New York. He's in school. She was working. She comes in, she gets the mail. She brings the mail in the house. Looks, mail from Nigeria, must be for my husband. No, it's my name. She opens it. It starts with "my dear wife." Blah, blah, blah. It was my grandpa greeting my mother. My mother said, my dear wife, for your husband, come. Excuse me, what is this man saying? And my father was like, oh, goodness. You are our wife. You are everybody's wife.
Wife. You didn't get that?
Wife. She said, no funny business. No funny business. Okay. To tell you the kind of amazing family I come from, my auntie, my dad's sister, was Winifred McEwen, was in charge of like Nigerian youth something. So she came to the United Nations in the 40s. She came to the United Nations in New York for conference. And that's where she met my mom. So my mom had the opportunity to meet one sister who is doing high-end things like being at the UN for youth and children in the US, for my mom to meet her. So by the time my mom went to Nigeria,
she already accustomed.
My father was a cantankerous, he's a Yoruba man. Yeah. He's annoyed with his sister. He's not talking to his brother. Mommy would, Saturday morning like this, mommy would tell the driver, you must come extra early tomorrow. Mommy will go to Etiosa, to the fish market at the river, buy fresh fish, take it to her father-in-law, along with a carton of Star or Guinness.
Imagine as a white woman, she was doing all those things already. And that's part of the tradition, which sometimes maybe from being Irish background as well as a Jewish background also have something to play a role in that, because we're all connected. As you could see the cultural aspect of it, the commonality in that already.
She was so awesome. She'll see my uncle. She'll say, brother, epele. She was so, I don't know if I married a Chinaman today and went to China, if I would be like that with his mother and father and brother and sister.
But that's what I'm saying. One thing I always tell people, it doesn't have to be the same color for somebody to appreciate the culture. Some may say, oh, maybe if you marry an African like you, there's some, you may marry an African who does not really appreciate the culture and will not succumb to those kind of values.
I don't even know. You know how we talk about people that go native.
Mm-hmm.
Some white woman comes to Nigeria, thinks she's Tarzan and Jane, and doing more than the Nigerians are doing. There's that, where you go totally native.
Yeah.
My mom never lost her whiteness or her, not whiteness, but her white identity.
Identity.
She never lost it because...
And that's part of what I'm saying from the background of the Polish background that she had. If you look at that background, there might be similarities in terms of how you connect with people. And she very observant to see what's this culture all about? What can I do?
She was alone.
Mm.
She was an only child.
Mm-hmm.
But it's her family. You are right. My grandma, her mom, came to see her before I was born.
Mm.
She got a 6-month visa, came for 6 weeks, stayed to the end of her 6 months visa, went to renew her 6 months visa. She renewed it 4 times. Every time on the application form, because we still have these documents. Why are you extending your stay? Because I love it here. 2 years, my grandma stayed. 2 years. That would have been in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
You see? So I think her people were very open-minded.
Yes.
And the thing with my mom that I can see is she did not resist the culture. These are these people. That's just how they do. Okay, brother, papa, my wife, okay. What does it cost me? It cost her nothing to call her father-in-law papa, to call her brother-in-law.
Yes, because she already understands the culture and said, this is how these things are here, because that's part of their culture. She accepted.
And my dad did an amazing job of honoring and loving his wife. I grew up in a very loving home. They loved each other. They were intellectual peers. Every evening was one argument or the other over the news and what's happening in Russia, Israel, America. I'm like, what are they talking about? Mm-hmm. And they were just intellectual peers. Mm-hmm. And, those hard things, right? Like, okay, this is my husband, this is my wife, I'm right here.
Yes.
Grass is not greener on the other side.
Yes.
When my father died, we said, okay, don't be ignorant, don't be naive. We asked Daddy, do you have other children? At the end of the day, he's a Nigerian man. If something happens at the funeral, nobody should act hysterical. If something comes out of somewhere, and we got to the funeral and nothing came out of somewhere. It's been 20 years. Nothing has come out from anywhere.
Anywhere, because, he wasn't
anything
to his family. So when you came to America at the age of 16, 17, you said, mm-hmm. How was your adjustment when you relocated?
I think the biggest thing for me was understanding what it means to be Black in America, right?
Which is mostly for many immigrants too.
Never occurred to me that I needed to learn about Blackness. Hey, I had read the autobiography of Malcolm X. I was totally familiar with Martin Luther King. All of that ended in the 60s, and here we are, it's in the 80s. So what's the big deal, right? Also, I perceived myself more like an international student.
Oh, wow.
So one of the things I did, and one of the things I write about, is I went to an all-women's college. It was about 1,000 students. So it wasn't a gigantic university. And at the time, we had a set of students from Paraguay, like this exchange program. Mm-hmm. So I see all the flyers on campus, the first month of being on campus. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to the international students meeting. And there was only one other African girl from Liberia at the school. That was it. And then a few Black people, like maybe 30.
What school was that, if you don't mind sharing?
Goucher College in Towson, Maryland.
Okay, Gaucha, I know Gaucha.
But Gaucha was an all-women's college back then.
Oh, wow, I didn't know.
Yes, there were no men on campus. So I go to this international students meeting. They're speaking Spanish. And here's the thing with this mixed race looking thing. People think I'm Hispanic. They look at me and start speaking Spanish, and I get very upset. So I looked at these people speaking Spanish. I said, okay, let me just go back to my room. I was very depressed that I'm not going to make friends in this school. Then a couple of nights later, the president of the Black Students Association and the vice president came and knocked on the door. That, okay, we're having a meeting this evening. We want to invite you to the meeting. Welcome to Gaucha College. And here's this awesome gift basket we have just for you. And it had crackers and all that stuff. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. But I'm sorry, I can't accept it. I'm not Black. The president looked at the vice president and said, get her ass. Excuse the French. And the president walked off. The vice president was like, it's okay. We still want you to come to the meeting. And she said, here, this is for you. Lock your door. Let's go. She was so sweet. I was like, okay, I guess I'll be Black. And I went on and I was Black. Like literally my amazing, wonderful, the best parents on the planet forgot to tell me I'm Black. They did not know, I guess, that we would be treated as Black. And the whole world would perceive us the same way, regardless of where we were.
Yeah.
And I was, my siblings were up north, and I was a little further south where it's even more magnified. And now I live in Atlanta, and I'm super clear that I'm a Black woman.
Yeah.
But if I were to self-describe, this is what I would say. I am a biracial, multicultural Black woman. That's what I would say.
Because you're never going to leave your identity of your Nigerian, Jewish, Polish heritage.
It's not that I'm denying being Black. Please understand, it's not that. Being Black in America is a very different thing than being Black in Africa, right? So, like, if the police stop me, they're not going to say, oh, you are Nigerian, let me treat you differently, right? But experientially, in terms of my identity and who I am, I reap the legacy of racism that is apparent today, even though I don't have the legacy of the history of being Black in this country. So then when I think of things like reparations, I do feel that African Americans from enslaved people should be treated with much more respect than, say, someone like me. That my own racism is only in this lifetime. It's not generational, But that's a very complex conversation.
To have.
That's a very complex thing. And I feel like a lot of people will say to me, but Iyabo, your work is white facing. You work with so many white people. I say, yes, what am I going to do? Go and tell Black people how to be Black? You cannot tell a descendant from whose great-grandmother was a slave, and I now, coming from Africa, would tell you how to do this thing.
No, it's historical. Black experience is historical. It's part of what is passed down from generation to generation, just like our culture is historical. It's part of what is being passed from generation to generation, because Black experience is different.
Totally. And now this takes us to the conversation you wanted to have. And I do want to talk about our kids more and how we help parents adjust, right?
Yeah.
But this thing between African Americans and Africans, I want to talk about that because my language is to us Africans. So this guy, somebody Acho, he used to be a football player. He went.
Let me even let you define your qualification. What got you into this job? You are qualified administrator for Intercultural Development Inventory, IDI, and a certified emotional intelligence coach. You are a founder of CARA Model, which you're going to explain, an integrative liberation of framework that moves learner through an exploration of anti-racist and elimination of racism, dismantling oppressive system, and grow equitable culture. So what does CARA stand for? And can you further explain what CARA Model.
CARA is Gaelic, which is what the language Irish people speak, about care, bosom friend. Almost like a soulmate, but a friend, right? And it's about how we need each other. And it's love. I mean, it sounds, but it's love that's going to heal this racial thing. Love meaning when I see you the way God sees you and the way God sees me, with that wholeness, sacredness, that is when we can work on healing.
Yes.
So that's where I'm coming from with it. I used to be a lawyer. I practiced law for 20 years, had a lovely, got burnt out and all that. And then I went to seminary at Emory University. And I was an old woman when I went to seminary. I was, when I say old woman, I was well into my 40s. And so I had my life experience to work with in seminary and my faith life, right? My parents were atheists. And somehow I just loved Jesus from day one. And I always kept it quiet. And, I felt my faith was very personal. But my faith influences my work. I do believe that even if I can't stand you right now, and we were designed to be in this thing together, I really believe I have a very Christian framework to my life. So I believe in the goodness of God. I believe in benevolence. Like, to me, benevolence is air, oxygen. Can you finish breathing all the oxygen? That's how much oxygen is available for you. You can't finish it. So when I talk about surviving and thriving, those are the types of things I'm coming up with. It's like a flower. It's just supposed to blossom and be beautiful for the glory of God. Same for me, same for you. We're just supposed to be all we were designed to be. Now, whether or not you believe in God, there is that life force thing that our obligation to life is to take the next breath. So whatever your spiritual belief framework is, I can't move away from why are we here and how do we get to be here together? Without having for me to take over your country like white people came and did, without me having to exploit you, without me having to be better than you. No, we're here together in togetherness, right? So that's where those things inform the work I do. And I went and got all these certifications. I started by consulting in intercultural development, helping schools, companies get people to have integrative cultural skills so they can work with different kinds of people. And as I did that work, people were like, but wait a minute, you're mixed race. I want to hear about that. What about race? What about race? And so the CARA model has a lot to do with the fact that culture is racialized in this country. So when I say Black people, right, you immediately get a culture in your head. But then that culture, I'm sure, is not the kind of Black person that, say, a Clarence Thomas is. We understand what I'm saying. And when I say white people, you get it, right? White people's food is not as spicy as Black people's food. Those are some cultural elements. So, but when we have culture, we have in-groups and out-groups. Like, you're part of this culture, you're not part of this culture. So white people's approach to race, dealing with race is, let's open all the doors of being white and let Black people come in so they could be white like the rest of us. Right? Which is called assimilation, which is what I think I did when I first came to this country. Nobody told me. Is when I look back on my life, I realized I assimilated. And honey, that's like a dog trying to meow like a cat. You can't do it. You are killing something within you. But then you wonder why you're sick. You wonder why you have all these different crises in the world, right? And so it's not assimilation that works, it's integration. Right? And Black people need to be able to go off and be Black. And white people need to be able to go off and be white. And Nigerians need to be able to go off and be themselves. Right? So that piece is where I have the life experience. I have the educational experience through being a lawyer, through the seminary experience. I have the certifications. I'm all about heart. I believe dismantling racism is actually a spiritual thing and not just mental. We have laws and all that, but you can't legislate the heart.
That's true. the law could be there. And if I don't feel comfortable, or I feel like, I could give somebody a chance, just to be able to prove themselves, then that might, that might debar the whole process in itself. So can you explain to our audience what is Intercultural Development Inventory and emotional intelligence? How do you use the tool to address and explore anti-racist, anti-oppression intention in workplace?
Okay, so the beauty of the intercultural development is that it's not this line that says, oh, you are racist, you are not racist.
Mm-hmm.
Sweetheart, all of us are racist. I am racist, if you want to go with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the only thing about the race piece is that there's a power. Like when I say I'm racist, I'm prejudiced, but I don't have this
biases.
Yes, there are biases, but I don't have the systemic power to exert that over white people, for instance, or Black people, right? So everybody has their biases. With the inventory, it just tells you where you land. You take these questions and it tells you where you land on a continuum, on a spectrum. And wherever you land, you work on it, you work to the next thing. Because here's the thing with the inventory, the way it relates to race is this. Most people think of, okay, for me not to be racist means I like you. Okay, I like you. And then in liking you, oh, Kemi and I both, she has hair, I have hair. She uses skin products, I use skin products. She wears earrings, I wear earrings. We're the same. There's no difference. But that's me saying, okay, be like me. I'm not saying, wow, Kemi's hair is very different from mine. That is awesome. I celebrate the difference. I understand it. I'm not fetishizing it. I'm not amazed by it. A difference is non-threatening to me and where I stand in society. That's what the inventory does for you.
Okay.
And with the emotional intelligence work, that's an area that so many of us are lacking. And we don't know when we're being defensive. We don't know when we're stepping on other people's toes. We don't understand how other people, Stephen Covey says, seek first to understand before you are understood. That capacity is an emotionally intelligent skill, emotional intelligence skill. So understanding how your brain, your emotions work, so that when you have these big reactions to these super sensitive things, that's what the emotional intelligence piece is about. So that's where all the certifications and qualifications come from.
Comes into. So what is intercultural competency that I also read on your website, and how is it beneficial to organization and society at large?
Okay, awesome question. Intercultural competency is the ability to move between cultures, whether it's gender-based culture, race-based culture, LGBTQ-based culture, national culture, class culture, with an awareness of how you are moving through it, right? It's not about other people. It's not about you learning how the Japanese do something. It's about you being aware of yourself so that you know, I'm observing something I don't understand. Let me figure out what's going on. Instead of jumping to a judgment that something's wrong. So a good example is, for instance, guy goes to Japan to work from an American corporation. And in Japan, the folks there that he's working with, they put their hands in front of them and bow. And he puts his hand out to shake and they bow. And he says, I just don't trust people that won't shake my hand and look me in the eye. So he's having a legitimate experience that trust is not being created here. But does he have enough not to know that in Japan, that's how they express trust, but to say, wait a minute, just to be able to pause to say, wait a minute, something's going on here. Wow, I'm not feeling that trust is being created here. But can I doubt that maybe I'm missing something? That pause is what helps you deal with other people and helps you articulate, wait a minute, y'all, I missed something here, blah, blah, blah. That's where that comes up. And it happens in organizations all the time, right? So this employee like me, Iyabo, Comes to work every day, 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late, even 15 minutes. Oh, God, Iyabo. But Iyabo will stay 2 hours afterwards to wrap things up. And Iyabo has the work on her mind 24/7. Can you accept that different people value time differently? And it's not just one way. That's one of the things about whiteness that's so toxic. There can only be one right way. So everything else you're doing doesn't matter if you haven't done that one thing.
It's so powerful what you said. For Africans, we don't make eye contact, especially when you're talking to an elderly person. Does not mean because you're uncomfortable or you are hiding something. But if you don't understand the culture, you might think that, I think they're hiding something or they intimidated.
Yes.
Or you allow an elderly person to speak, whereby in American culture, everybody talks, whether you're young, you're old, but in African culture, the elders have to speak first. And you take that as immigrant, who are in this country and look at them that, they don't have anything to contribute. It's not going to say, I'm just going to make that decision right there without thinking, why is this person really not expressing? Is it part of the culture? What is their culture like? Is it about, respecting the elders?
Oh, here's a very, very good one. Igbo people and Yoruba people in a church together. Or not, it wasn't Igbo and Yoruba. It was like from Congo or something, right? And the Yoruba person's child dies, God forbid. And the Congo people now say, let us come and join you when you go to the funeral of your child. And this Yoruba woman that's deep in grief becomes offended because you keep calling her every day to say, when is the funeral? Because in Yoruba land, a parent doesn't bury their child. So you're not going to go, now we're changing it, some of us here, we will go to that child's funeral, but you don't do that traditionally. So even the Congo person doesn't understand the culture of the Yoruba person.
The Yoruba person. So
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How do you become sensitive? It's not to know. Because you can't know everything about everything. Culture. How do you become sensitive to ask instead, what are the protocols for the funeral of a child in a situation like this? What would be appropriate for me to do to show support to this woman? Go and ask the people around. That's cultural sensitivity. That's cultural competency. Or like in an organization that an African American woman, her son's best friend died in a murder. She wants to go to the funeral and take bereavement leave, and you say it's not her child. And she raised those two together because they live next door to each other, and both moms would help each other with babysitting. And you are saying that's not her child. So she can't take bereavement leave. Those are the types of things I help people with policies to look at things like that, to say, wait a minute, this is a very white Eurocentric value system in your employee manual. And people get shocked. They've never thought about things like that.
And that's so powerful what you're saying, because when you don't have the awareness that different cultures do something different, even in America, that what controls the whole society is white culture. It's just like, you go to some doctor's office, they're calling you by your first name. Or you as an African, you look like, and said, I don't think that's appropriate. I don't really welcome that. Address me in a proper way, in a respectable manner. So it's all those things together. And I'm glad, because being in many discussion about diversity and inclusion, and in many focus is mostly about race, black and white. And it does not ground into other issue that is also applied to other people of color as well.
Or let me be super controversial, or even like the LGBTQ community, right? So you gave a doctor's office example. In the doctor's office, the form says mother and father. And it's two women raising the child.
Yeah. So it's different.
Now, for us Nigerians, we don't want to hear anything about that. But if you as a human being, you require dignity in how you are treated, then the next person is entitled to dignity as well.
Absolutely.
The fact that you don't agree with it does not mean that that person is less of a human being than you. I'm not saying you have to become a member of the LGBTQ community, but I support the LGBTQ community because for all kinds of reasons, because of that revelation that, but these are people too. If I'm not sleeping with you, what's my concern? As we say, what's in concern fish with raincoats? Right? But it's okay to discriminate against you because you are doing something I quote unquote don't like, or my Bible says is a sin or something. But the same Bible that's talking about fornication, some of our men have multiple wives. We're not talking about that one, no. But this one, you want to point a finger. The hypocrisy is why.
Right, yeah.
Because we're so hypocritical. And especially in the African community. And deal with it. Deal with the fact that you have conservative views and this is why. And be able to articulate it flawless. And still stand in love to your neighbor. That's what I'm asking of us.
And we don't even see, because there's some things that is beyond just issue of color of your skin or race issue. You have a class issue also. You could have Black people who are on the upper echelon class. You have white people who are on the upper echelon that discriminate against another white set of white people who from low income level, or Black people from low income level against other Black. So as we talked about before about Black experience and immigrant experience, which you already mentioned, Black experience is historical in this country. Start from the time of African being enslaved in America, Jim Crow era to civil rights movement. And that continues still today as we discuss inequality along the racial line. Even with this inhumane experience African-American went through, they were able to develop Black culture in religion, music, food, name it, after losing so many years of their original culture. Then on the other hand, the African countries were not exempt from brutality of white supremacy, which we experienced through colonization during the Berlin Conference between 1884 to 1885. African countries were divided by European without no African in that room. Okay, we're forced to study under the colonial rules for years. And that's why the languages of European become our national language. In most part of African countries, we have people who speak English, French, Portuguese, Italian, Spanish. So when it comes to racial identity, Black Americans may identify themselves as African Americans or Black. And like you said before, on the other hand, I identify myself as a Nigerian, which recognize my two heritages, culture, specifically Yoruba. So for many immigrants, we have to navigate through so many worlds, different worlds between, we have to navigate the world of Blackness. Like you said, you found out that you are Black when you came to America. We didn't know what it is to be Black in this country. We have no idea of institutionalized racism, how it's building the system, such as in housing, in healthcare, quality education. So Black American may not know what it is like also to be immigrant, to be Black immigrant in America, regarding the struggle and the challenges that face many immigrants in navigating through diverse space, such as educational system, healthcare, workspace, even legal or justice system itself. So can you comment on these unique experiences? How can you relate to both on both sides? Because I know you are caught in the middle.
So I feel that I've been adopted into the African American family. In that when I came, these days, if you come to America, you can, if you're in a place like New York, DC, you can literally be around your own people morning to night, not have to integrate with white people or African Americans. You can literally do that as an immigrant now. I couldn't when I came. and I wasn't gelling and bonding. And like I said, my mom did not have relatives. And so she had one living relative. And so I ended up finding community mostly with African Americans. And then I got semi-adopted into a family here in Atlanta that I call my godparents, and they're African Americans. This was through my church life. So like even my faith experience, I tend to lean more towards Black churches or mixed churches more than traditionally white churches. There's that. So let's go back. Slavery is a very, very complicated thing to talk about. It's not black and white. It's not simple, right? So the first people to Lagos were the Portuguese. But we were not colonized by the Portuguese. We were colonized by Great Britain. And slavery was a mix of stealing slaves and selling our own, right? So Oba of Badagry or wherever, he has taken over one other town near Ekpe and took some of those people as his slaves. In Yoruba culture, when a king takes people as slaves, is to make them part of his kingdom, to change them from being Ekpe people to Badagry people. And I'm just using Ekpe and Badagry as examples. Your empire goes and take over some Edo people there, or Edo people
they become Yoruba.
Is for you, you are a prisoner, you are a slave, and you become free, and you become part of this community. That is what our understanding of slavery is.
Yeah.
Now, in the East, in Igbo land, you can be an Osu. And Osu is the equivalent of caste system like they have in India. If your family name is an Osu name, doesn't matter what you do. Osu, you are an Osu.
Yeah.
So you will never be able to marry into certain other families. Osu marry each other, right? And Osu is a form of caste system. And when there's battles and stuff, the Osu people are captured as slaves.
Yeah.
So Osu people, Yoruba slaves, this is who was sold into slavery when we sold. Some were captured, some were sold. Okay? We have to deal with that. We know some of the family names that were involved in slavery. You know, we've heard those names, a handful of them, and we just don't say anything. What we understood, slavery has always existed. That's not the point. What we understood to be slavery is not what happened to African Americans, where they were totally cut off from everything. It was intentional that you will not speak Wolof, Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo, Calabar, Edo. You will now be speaking Oyinbo man's language, English, and lose every sense of who you are. Every piece of identity was cut off. You are stripped of being a human being. When in our own culture, we don't strip humanity from our own enslaved people, right? So we don't understand what Americans have gone through, but we know in our own culture, they are from an Osu type family. They are from a slave family. There are people who are enslaved. Class kicks in. I'm better than you because your people were enslaved. That means you don't have a lot of money. You don't have a lot of land. You're not really, really one of us. So that class thing kicks in to say I'm superior to you. That same vibe is how we treat African Americans. And then part B is that we allow our ignorant selves to be influenced by TV. All the shows that show African Americans as thieves, drug dealers, that's what we watch, right? Rap artists, you know, what the media wants us to think of Black people is what we think of Black people, right? So we come here with a totally different value system. I'm not saying it's a bad value system. We want our children to go to school. We want our children, whether you are in America, whether you are in Timbuktu, we're going to say, watch out for your friends. Pick your friends very carefully. Make sure they are from good homes, blah, blah, blah. Same thing for us with our children. When we see them hanging out with people we don't think share the same family values. Don't play with that person. Oh, the mother is divorced or whatever. She has 5 children for 5 different men. That is a bad thing because I have 5 children for 1 man. right? Those are the ways we tell our children, don't mess with those people, low. Then we look at SAT scores and college, university. How many people in this neighborhood are going to university? It's a Black neighborhood. Let me go to the white neighborhood where the statistics are higher. Not even understanding what the heck is going on. We blame Black people for their plight today. We have zero appreciation for how they have been set up for failure from day one. Set up for failure. They are 300, 400, 500 years behind the average. Yet they are thriving in so many ways. African Americans are doing the best that they can with what they have. Genius emerges daily. Yeah. So there are those individual things that are shining, but as a collective, there's still amazing poverty. There's still medical disparity beyond what you and I can even think of. The fastest growing demographic today of new HIV cases is Black women in the South that are heterosexual. So when I get passionate about LGBTQ stuff, that's because, it's a gay man's disease. Leave them. That's what they get. No, I'm a single woman. I am at risk. But I choose to be in a relationship, I am at risk because A, Black people don't go and get tested because they don't trust the medical system. B, you can be exposed to HIV, and if your immune system is very strong, you may not get it. Our immune system, due to epigenetics and all kinds of things, is not as strong. That's part of why this kind of epidemic. So African Americans make up 21, 22, 23% of the population. African Americans make up 40% of all new HIV cases. These are medical disparities. When you take hospitals out of Black neighborhoods, that's what happens. When you don't let people take off from work to go and do medical stuff, that's what happens. Okay? So we don't understand the background things that create what we're seeing. We just look at what we're seeing, right?
Do you also think the educational system we received in different parts of Africa with the colonial influence of our education in Africa, whereby, when I was back in Nigeria, the only way that I knew about Black people in America, it was through Soul Train.
That's my point.
We used to watch Good Times. When I was in Nigeria, I think Black people were cool. I didn't even consider them to be Black. I just called them the Americans. Then you have to also look at the image of Africans being shown towards the African Americans or other people. Because when you come in here as an immigrant, what is the perception of people of African descent, African American, the Caribbean, the South Americans? How do they see you? What do they perceive you to be? So we have to look at both sides of the coin of how Africans is being perceived. Maybe that's why they don't want to connect with the African because of the image. And that's where the education comes in.
Yes.
Because we cannot trust the system that is educate both parts. We have to be the ones to educate ourselves.
It's ignorance on both parts. Do you remember this saying that I remember learning this statement. When in Rome, do as the Romans. Yoruba people, we really believe in hospitality. So, for instance, my hope is that we Nigerians will come to this country with respecting African Americans and saying, you know what, these same African Americans are the very reason I'm here, because they fought for the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which did not allow, prior to that, just like Donald Trump was doing, where immigrants could only come from Europe. He blatantly said it, that they only wanted Northern European immigrants because we have too many other immigrants from other places, because the white population is diminishing, I believe, is why he said it. So the Civil Rights Act of 1964 is what allowed Black immigrants to come to this country, to apply for visa to come to this country. It's because of African Americans. Now, the other thing that is happening, I don't think we have this value. It's a core value of education. We come here to read a book and get that degree. We come from lineages of education, especially like Yoruba people, Igbo people too are extremely big on education. And, I'm generalizing when I say Yoruba and Igbo people, all the minority groups are there too. But we come here valuing education, knowing we have to be at the top of our game. We know that because we have an accent, because we're from Africa, that we have to work 3 times as hard to get halfway as far. And we're okay with it. We're okay. We'll do it. We can do it. We used to read with candlelight. What's the big deal? At least we'll have electricity as we're reading our books. So we have a core value that is not part of the African-American core value system because they're in a different mode of survival, right? So very different thing. Then, for instance, here in Atlanta, Georgia State University, they will have a statistic like, 40% of our population are Black, and they're graduating with GPAs of an average of 3.5, right? I don't know what the statistic is, but it's higher than this 23% population of Black people. Well, do you know that out of that 40%, probably 80 to 90% of those kids are Nigerian American and Ghanaian American children?
Mm-hmm.
So our children are taking all the scholarship opportunities of Black African American children.
That's part of where my conversation is actually going next, because apart from Africans coming here, you have many people who come from Asia, from South America. Immigrant experience is about exploring opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at somebody from Asian countries, whether China, whether they are from India, the drive is to thrive. That's immigrant experience. Whether somebody from Poland comes from a very poor family from Poland, the drive is to thrive. So part of that is very important for many immigrants, which, a lot of time, African Americans, even within African American community, there's so many people among African Americans who actually thrive. I've read books and I've been in a conference where many Blacks who came during the time their ancestors came through slavery, and they say, look at me today. Look where I am today. Okay, because with all those baggages, with all those challenges, my people still make it through. So we cannot just say that Africans are the one taking all those part of us, because it's creating so much problems, or they are children, because we have to look at, for me, that's when the conversation about affirmative action comes in. We have to look at the generalization of inequality in America.
I'm not going to tell my child not to take that scholarship from Georgia Tech or Georgia State and not to do that. But I'm showing you those numbers to say that when a person who's already hurt looks at numbers like that, how will they not feel even more oppressed? Forget whether or not it makes sense. I live in a town called Clarkston. Clarkston is the most diverse 1 square mile in America because of refugee community.
Mm-hmm.
So it used to be a white town. Then there was white flight. The community center now used to be the white high school that refused to integrate with the Black high school.
Mm-hmm.
And that place was laying fallow for 20 plus, many, many years. From the 60s, many years, it just was rotting away till they got it together and made it the community center. There's still a core African-American community in this community.
Mm-hmm.
And there is nothing available for them. Every sign, everything is refugee this, refugee that. Come here for your ESL. Come here for your typing skills. Come here for sewing skill. I will teach you how to be a mechanic. African Americans, there is nothing. It's just like, and every year for Juneteenth, they talk about this thing and complain. The first thing is to acknowledge that there's some ignorance going on here. There's some disparities. Let's see what they are. I'm not saying don't send your child to Georgia State. Wherever your child needs to go, you need to take care of your family, right? Your kid worked hard for his grades. They need to go to school and do whatever. But we have to acknowledge that our children are having a different experience than African Americans are having. generally speaking?
Of course, that's part of what I wanted to. Many African immigrants, most times, actually acknowledge the struggle that African Americans have been through in this country. I'm very appreciative of their contribution to this country.
I don't know. That's been your experience. That's not been my experience.
Yeah, well, on both sides, like I said, you will see the ignorance on both sides. You could,
absolutely,
of course, talk to an African American who tells you African and this, A, B, C, and D. So instead of us looking at the African immigrant children actually coming in to take opportunity, why don't we look at the system that make that inequality in the first place?
Absolutely.
When we say Asian children are taking advantage of African American opportunity, you understand what I'm saying, what they're supposed to. So for me, when it comes to the issue of affirmative action and a lot of all this inequality, because like I said, I've spoken to people. Let me give you an example. Please. Over 25 years ago, I went to, they always have African Film Festival in New York here. And I went to see a documentary of a young man who grew up in the South Bronx. He grew up in the South Bronx. He came out of the first to ever graduate high school, African-American background in his family. And he came out of Taft High School in the Bronx, which they consider to be the worst school, one of the worst schools in the Bronx. He came out with 4.0 average. And he got into Brown University to study pre-med. When he got to Brown, the first biology class, he said he couldn't understand what the professor was saying because he was not prepared. The quality of education that he received from Taft High School didn't prepare him for him to function academically at Brown University. And in that classroom, there are also many Black Americans in that classroom, whereby he said they are from another world. These are not children of African immigrants. These are also Black American children who came from the upper echelon of American society, who are part of the talented 10, right, like W.B. Du Bois we say.
Yes.
And he said he could not connect with them because of a totally different background. And from there, he dropped out of biology major. But he was so lucky because as he was struggling, he was a very outgoing young man. But when he got to Brown, he became isolated in his room. And he couldn't go out because he could not connect even with other Blacks who are part of African-American community. But he reached out to Black organization in the school, Black Studies Department, and they pull him in and they mentor him. They help him out on how to study, how to do his paperwork and everything. He ended up graduating from Brown as African-American study degree. So we have to look at that inequality of education. This country is so segregated that we don't even see what is going on in other community, maybe some poor white community whereby the educational system there is also poor. When we look at the Asian community, their parents pay so much. In New York here, you will see that Asian children are mostly in gifted and talented program in New York City here, like Stuyvesant or Bronx Science. Those are the top public schools. Most of the children in those schools are mostly Asians. So when they are coming out from 8th grade to go to 9th grade, their parents who have language barrier in this country send their children to all these classes on Saturday and Sunday so that they could get into these schools. Because as an immigrant, their value is focused on making sure their children achieve that education. So are we going to say that those children who end up in all these schools, they should drop out? In most schools in the Bronx area, all over New York City, where minority are mostly reside, many of those schools do not prepare these children academically, socially, to be in that school environment, to get into all these top universities. So we have to look at the system in itself. That's my own belief.
I totally 100% agree with you that this is a systemic issue. However, we were talking about us as individuals, like when we come here and what do we do with our children and stuff. I think that one of the things we don't have because of the political and systemic chaos that we come from in Nigeria, we don't have an appreciation for how controlling the system is in America. The system, the man.
And believe me, it affects immigrant, many immigrants, because like I said, I'm not focusing only on African or Black.
No. Yeah, we don't come from that.
Yes. So when I even read books written by Asian children, it's the same thing that they look at their parents, that their focus is all about making sure, because they know where they come from and they know the purpose of coming. Yeah. So that kind of thinking is very, I would say, generalized among many immigrants who come to this country. Because when you're coming from where you're coming from, you feel like, oh my God, like you said, I don't have to go and fetch water. Sometimes my kids will complain and say, oh my God, I have to do A, B, C, and D. And as an African parent, you say, you don't have to go 2 miles to fetch water. So what are you talking about? What are you complaining about? I have a book here for African children, which I will show you later on, that shows children in Nigeria who are using lamp to study. And I said, if you show that to an American child and said, you need to study when there's no light, they will say, what are you talking about? I'm not just going to do the homework, because the teacher will just have to know that we had no electricity. I had another picture of a young lady, 2 siblings doing their own work on a garbage can because they have no table. So if my child comes in and said, we don't have a table for me to do my work, I could turn the garbage can around and say, put your book on that place and then do your own work, because I'm not going to listen to that.
Oh, gosh. That poor child can report you to DFACS that you are abusing.
So they will report, because it's different. So that's part of what, and I agree with you. The experience of immigrants is completely different from experience of people who are here. Because even back in Nigeria, I believe maybe looking back with your mom, and when she was back in Nigeria, if you tell an average Nigerian at that time, go and do some dirty work, they said, me? Why would I go and do that kind of work? I'm a Nigerian citizen. It's not something I have to do. But those who came from, if you remember, those who came from Ghana, who were sewing clothes that they will put machine on their shoulder, we call them a jikani shop.
Yes.
You understand me? They will go around and do those dirty work that the Nigerians don't want to do, because Nigerian feels like, I am a citizen here, I shouldn't be struggling. So it's kind of like different between immigrant and then the native, because the native knows what they are supposed, which is, if you look at African immigrant, I might not tell my children about police brutality because it's not part of my experience.
Yes, exactly.
I won't tell them what to say when you come in contact with the police, because I will just say, be careful, don't even get into trouble that will warrant police to come around you.
Absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying? So it's completely different. Or even if my child get arrested, as an African, you may not know what is it to do. To be arrested to an African is like you kill somebody, because where you come from, they don't arrest you for jumping the turnstile, doing some minor thing. So the experience is completely different.
Totally. And I know that what you're saying is that Americans should understand that about us, African Americans. And I think part of my argument is that even though we also come here in survival mode, you go to me, if I go to Nigeria today, I can stay in Sheraton, wherever. Just the stress of Nigeria, I will come back and it will be like I was in a war zone. So talk about survival versus thriving. Just the thought of Lagos is a survival thought.
Yeah.
But I feel like what we have a responsibility over, I cannot force you to be someone you're not. But what I can do is change me.
Yeah.
I want us to be, my desire is for us to be more educated, more open-hearted towards the African-American experience. And I'll tell you why. I want us to be knowledgeable and appreciative to the African-American experience. You may meet this one person, you don't like the person, and they're African-American. That's okay. Okay. You may not like particular individuals, you don't gel with them. That's not the problem. For me, it's like thinking we're different or better. I want us to get to the bottom of that. That's an internal job. Here are two little things I want to say. Why our children are having a hard time is that they are mixed culture people.
Mm-hmm.
They go to school, they have the African American experience. They come here, they have to put on their Nigerian stuff. They're Nigerians, right? And what's that bifurcation I've lived. You wake up in the morning, you kill this part of yourself to go and be out in the world. You come home, you kill that part of yourself. Then we wonder why our own children have mental health issues.
Well, you know,
and are not behaving the way we think they should be. You know, they are having identity issues.
Crisis,
Who am I? Okay, I know I have to eat jollof rice every day, but you know, when I'm out there, I'm just another brother. You know, and I do like those braids and twists, you know, dreadlocks. And my mama's not gonna have that. Okay, I'm gonna get a tattoo, but hide it or whatever. We are social beings. We have to fit in. I'm not myself if I don't have you. I'm nobody without the other, right? So our children have these worlds they're navigating. We need to be sensitive and understand that our children and grandchildren are most likely going to be more African American than we care to admit. And so the sooner we make peace with these differences, the faster we will have peace.
Because I've had community conversation where I ask, when I do my community conversation, if it's African immigrant, how do you identify yourself? And many of them will say they are African Americans because that is their experience, even though they know their parents are from Kenya, from Senegal, from Nigeria. They have that cultural heritage as well. So like you said, the balance between two worlds of, you know, being Black in America and being somebody of African heritage. So it's to be able to look at both sides. And, you know, the whole thing is that, like you said, many of us, one thing in this country, the way educational system is planned, you go to school, you get your bachelor's degree. Doing Black studies is optional as part of the subject. You will do American history, European history before they force you. Actually, I think Black studies is part of social studies. It's not mandated.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. Even
Black history is American history.
And it's supposed to be American history, but it's not something that, you know, is mandated. Okay. When I was doing my undergraduate, I took Black studies, didn't teach me too much. Even with me taking Black studies class, it didn't teach me too much until when I started going out and reading on my own, reading authors that Americans' school system will consider to be controversial, for me to actually understand the plight, the history of African Americans in this country. So we have to look at their whole system in itself.
And here's the other piece I want us to... I'm talking to our own people. Saying, I want us to be frank with ourselves. And, you know, like there's an African American saying, in every dime, there are two nickels. What's your nickel in this dime? Okay, you can't be worried about the other nickel. You can only be worried. So I'm not saying there isn't another nickel. I'm just saying, here's my own nickel. The other thing that has happened is, especially in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, a lot of Nigerian men came here, and to get their paper, they will woo some Black girl, African-American woman, file, you know, she'll file. In the meantime, they're dogging the woman. They may not be taking care of their children, which is very unusual for us. They never intended to be with the woman. It was a means to an end. And they're, you know, back then, understand how there are few African-American men that are eligible. Black women will read, have PhD. The best they may not be able to find a partner at that same level of education. They may be with a truck driver, right? And so they find another Black person who happens to be a Nigerian who's pursuing that education, because Black women are super educated in this country.
Yes.
the Stacey Abrams kind of women that are movers and shakers and doing things. And they will meet our Nigerian men. The men will do whatever it is that not good men do, men that are not good. Whether they are white, black, African American, whatever, we know how men can be, a certain caliber of men can be. And Nigerians, we're not exempt, Some of us, not all, some of us are like that. And I know a lot of African American women that had relationships with Nigerian men and were badly hurt and wounded.
That's really sad. That is really sad.
And it happened. So if I'm bitter, if I say, I've been with Nigerian men, I can't do that anymore, and I'm prejudiced against Nigerian men, you can understand.
Yeah.
So that's another piece.
Layer of,
and the perception of how, we are proud people. I saw this interview with Burna Boy and Trevor Noah. Everybody should Google it and look for it. And Trevor is asking Burna Boy, but what is it about Nigerians? You people, all Africans are so sweet and nice, but when it comes to Nigerians, my goodness. And Burna Boy was like, and? He said, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, as a Yoruba person, let me tell you, what is your oriki?
I know my oriki.
So when you wake up in the morning, grandma is praising your ancestors.
Your head
and your head is blowing. As a Nigerian, it's something that the way we were raised.
Yeah.
Pride is part of the culture, which a lot of time, sometimes we have to be able to work things, about ourselves,
But let me say this. If I'm proud of my culture and I'm standing next to an Edo man or an Igbo man or Hausa man, and understand we're all on the same level, but we are both but we're on the same level. For African Americans that have had the legal classification of not being human, then you come with your own out of context. They don't understand. You're not bonding and gelling and saying, hey, we are black. You are still saying I'm better than you.
Well, you know what? No, I don't condone that, because as human beings, we're supposed to connect with each other.
Yes.
Because for me also, like I said, when I was doing undergraduate, there's so many things I didn't know about African American history that was taught to me by African Americans. Yes. Which I adopted as my father, my mother, and everything else, within the community at that time. We just have to find a way to collaborate, because we cannot give up our culture. I won't tell African Americans to give up their culture, and they won't tell me to give up my culture. But just to respect each other, differences, and appreciate one another. And I'm not just talking about African American alone. I'm also talking about Africans in the Caribbean.
Yes.
Africans who are from Brazil, those are also part of us. Yeah. And they are all in this country. The South Americans, when you're talking about the Latinos, who are also part of Yoruba, if you meet somebody from Puerto Rico who will tell you, they also have Yoruba spirituality, and they're able to connect with that. From Cuba, from all these different places that they connect with the Yoruba, because they believe that's part of their culture, even though they are very light-skinned, many of them. So for me, I'm connecting with everybody, because those are my heritage. Those are my people that were removed, from the continent. When I look at the food being cooked by those from South America, I say, wow, we cook the same thing. We have all this original food. And I look at some things that African American cook, of people from the Caribbean, and say, wow, this is all connected. I remember somebody was talking about chitlins, the chitlins that African American eat.
Yes.
And their explanation is that, these chitlins, they had to eat it because during the time of slavery, that was what the masters give them to eat.
Yes.
And that's how they learned to eat chitlins. I said, why do you start your history from that? I said, because if you are not being taught how to eat that chitlins from back in Africa, you wouldn't know what to do with it.
But do they know that we eat chitlins?
No, they didn't know. They didn't know. So I was able to explain that this actually came from Africa. Do not start your history from slavery because your ancestors were existing before. So that seedlings that was given that they were able to take and turn it into, food was something that was being taught that they brought from Africa, because if they didn't bring it from Africa, they wouldn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
All this group for us to pull together. And like I said, I'm not just focusing on African American, I'm also talking about other people of African descent that they got deposited all over the places, and they are also in this country,
I don't know enough. I've always had good experiences with Caribbean folks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know a lot of folks from Brazil, and the few I know are white. I've not had the experiences you're talking about. And let me say this in all fairness, it's possible that my biracial, bicultural background also affects my ability to perceive some of these things as they were happening. I don't have the same perceptions that you have.
Yeah.
I always think of what is blinding me.
Yeah.
So there's certain things like our accents, some of us cannot hide it. I flow between, I can sound like an Isolo girl. I sound like I'm giving an erudite speech at the White House, I mean, it's just, I don't plan it. I don't. Yeah. So when I'm in white spaces, they, when our brains are wired funny. When I hear a Niger accent, my heart just opens, right?
Yeah. Yes.
When white people see a Black person speaking in a way that they can relate, it different things happen in their brains too.
Yeah.
So I may have been blinded to some of the experiences you are describing, and in no way say invalidating them.
Yeah.
And I'm appreciative that you express it and you have a global perspective of what being Black is.
Yeah.
That's really meaningful to me. Thank you. But I just wanted to make that statement before we.
Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, I could keep you here all day.
It has been delightful. How are you going to do this podcast? One show for 2 hours, or you're going to?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So, well, let me know what people say.
I will. So any other thoughts you would like to share with our listener, or how can they contact you or follow you on social media?
Okay. Very good. The best way to find me and track me is on Facebook. You can just follow me. Facebook.com/Iyabo. My writing is at iyabo.substack.com, which is, I write quite a bit. I haven't been writing lately, but I write quite a bit. That's the way you can support my writing and share it with other people. My blog is at iamiyabo.com. You can send me a message on there if you need something from me. Here's what I want to ask all of us to do, because I'm going to do it. An African-American woman that I really admire and respect, who's doing her family genealogy, asked me why hadn't I done my DNA ancestryandme.com testing. And I was like, I know where my people are from. And she said, well, what if you get connected to an African-American and discover your relatives that are here? It blew my mind. I had never thought of that.
I never thought about it either.
But us as Africans, that's one of the ways we can begin to make bridges of healing. Because if an African-American contacts you right now and says, do you know, we share some ancestry, we are 3%, 5%, 10% related, it would blow your mind.
I will jump for joy. I found a sister or a brother.
Precisely. And so I'm looking forward to that part of my experience. And I invite all of us to open doors by doing something like that.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with our audience and for coming to Pansa Pansa. I really appreciate, this crucial information you shared today about self-discovery, cultural sensitivity, and racial awareness. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
My joy. Be well. Blessings.
Pansa Pansa continue to normalize conversation about the importance of community engagement, about African immigrant experiences in America, as we continue to dialogue on the issue of racism, discrimination, prejudice, bigotry, biases, intolerance, and injustice that are not openly discussed in the mainstream American society. As I always say, as we continue to discuss difficult issues within our community, we're shredding away stigma associated with uncomfortable dialogue. Thank you so much, Miss Iyabo Onipede, for coming to Pansa Pansa to share the wealth of knowledge about your expertise on eliminating racism, dismantling oppressive system, and growing equitable culture in American society. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with our community in the diaspora. And I believe those who will listen to this podcast episode will really appreciate the crucial information you share today on self-advocacy, cultural sensitivity, and racial awareness. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Pansa Pansa Live podcast. We hope to have you back with us in the next episode as we continue to explore the nuances of the African immigrant experience. If you'd like to connect with us, you can email us at talk@pansapansa.org. That is talk@pansapansa.org. And follow us on Instagram at pansa.pansaforum. Until next time, remember to spread kindness and love. Thank you and take care of yourselves.